could be larger than life, bigger than the world, living out the hopes and dreams of every boy and every girl. You could fly higher than the sky, shine brighter than the stars. You got all you ever wanted, shoot the moon and reach for Mars. You know you're larger, larger than, bigger, bigger than, living hopes and dreams. Every boy and girl, higher, higher than, brighter, brighter than, all you wanted. You know, hey, you could be larger than life, bigger than the world, living out the hopes and dreams of every boy and every girl. Hey, you could fly higher than the sky, shine brighter than the stars. You can have all you ever.
I'll just have a cup of coffee, then I'll go. Thought that
Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Coffee Time. As always, my first question, can you see me okay? Can you hear me okay? As many of you know, I'm a little gun shy because of all the issues I've had over the last couple months. Good morning, Christopher. And during this time of being sick and not able to do a whole lot and lots of computer problems and having to reconstruct a lot of things, positives came out of it, and hopefully today in our coffee time you'll see some of those. Fingers crossed. So coffee time is my time to answer questions that my regular viewers have, or new viewers. If you're new, welcome. I saw there were some new subscribers, and so if you're on, welcome to that. We've formed kind of a community here, and last night I ran a test that actually was not supposed to be live. I told YouTube to unlist it, and apparently they ran it live anyway, because I had 38 people tune in to nothing but a test. Be prepared to move back to the US. It may be required. You can't require it. Anyway, one of the positives is I can see chat on this second screen. It's not good for a lot, but I can take the chat and blow it up into huge proportions. I hope I see the waitress show up at the cafe. So I take it everybody can hear me okay, and that's good. I've been stalling a little because of that. There's been, last week's coffee time was a bust. Only a couple minutes came out. And then I had the test last night that some people tuned in thinking it was going to be coffee time. So, thank you for hanging in there. So what do we got today? I've spent so much time on trying to sort out my life, but I've got a couple topics that I think you'll find interesting. If you're in Colombia, there's a good chance you may not be aware. And if you're planning to come here, it's definitely something you need to know. So hopefully this all goes well. Where have I been? What's been going on? Just a quick recap, because some of you already know. I got very sick, and I ended up, the two viruses, computer was one and me was the other. The computer issues, it was a nightmare. It went on for about 10 days. Windows 10 ultimately caused the problem. And there's a problem they have that goes back 3 years, and they have yet to fix it. And I'll tell you this quickly, because I don't know what percentage of people, but based on the amount of information you can see on the internet, I think a lot of people that run Windows 10 may have this issue. If you find your computer is kind of running slower and slower and slower, there's a good chance it's not malware. What you want to do is look at your task manager and look at your hard drive percent. For your task manager, just take your bar that's at the top or at the bottom of the screen and right click on it, and you'll see a choice to open the task manager. So you open that up, or you can do a Control-Alt-Delete and select it there. And it'll come up into a window, and then you'll see a little thing below. It says details, and click on that, and it'll give you this chart. And it's telling you how the CPU is running and your RAM and all of those things live. And if you look at your hard drive and you see it's running at 100%, your hard drive can only take that for so long. Mine went probably a couple months. I wasn't aware of this, as many of you are not aware of this. And ultimately, it caused a problem with my hard drive where it appears to work, but then it continually malfunctions and it keeps trashing things. Acts just like a virus, but it wasn't a virus. And they say that that you can't hurt hardware like that. Well, you can. I'm here to tell you, and there's a million other people on the internet that will tell you. So, check it out. If it's running at 100%, this is what you do. I'm not going to go through how to fix it. Just Google hard drive 100%. And it'll come up with lists. There'll be all kinds of things. There'll be YouTube videos, there'll be in writing, and there'll be 10 or 12 things to go through. I think it was the fourth one on most people's list that took care of mine. But just keep going through them until your problem is solved. And now my computer is running, I don't know if it's ever run this fast. It's a state-of-the-art laptop that felt like it was all kinds of problems. And looking back at the last laptop, could very well have had this issue, and that could be why it was overheating and I was having all of those problems, if you remember. So this is certainly something you want to look into. I could say I'm running probably 4 times faster, having resolved that little issue. I like the green screen. Yeah. Whoop, coffee. I should reverse this. Yes, I'm not actually sitting in a coffee shop, so there will never be a waitress come along. So, I dealt with, I can't tell you what a nightmare it was, constantly running into yet another problem, yet another problem, yet another problem. It took me about 10 days. And it looks like I've got it tackled finally, as of last night. On top of that, I was sick for 14 days. Now, I went about 8 days, and it's funny because I was feeling considerably better. I wasn't feeling normal, but way better. And I posted on Facebook, and somebody that I know got on there and said, well, be careful with the relapse, because a lot of people are having this illness. They get a second go-round. And it wasn't maybe a day later. I'm sketchy on the days and times, because I went a couple days where I was actually kind of delirious, didn't know what was going on, where I was. Who was that guy that ran with Ross Perot? And why am I here? What am I doing? Yeah, it was kind of like that. So I had a relapse, and that was bad. It was really bad. But I came out of it, and everything's okay, and I'm feeling about normal. I mean, I'm weak, I'm worn down. I haven't been out walking around, and so I've got that going on. But as far as being ill, I have no more fever, thank God. So it was pretty terrible. So, enough of me. I mean, this is about me and my adventures, and that wasn't exactly an adventure. But I was asked to put a name on this. I don't know. Didn't go to a doctor. I'm not going to get tested. All I know is I got sick as a dog, and I also know that it never got into my lungs. So that was my biggest worry. So today's topic is shopping. You know, it seems apropos with the quarantine here. And I know I've got a couple viewers. There's one guy, he's stuck in Pereira. And he just arrived and they shut everything down. You know, so he's new here. He's stuck there. I haven't heard from him in a while. Hopefully everything's okay. But shopping is an important thing right now because you can't go out and roam around and discover things. Thanks, Reese. And I can read that, and I don't have to squint. I don't have to get close. I can read it from back here. It's pretty awesome. I just have to look over at that screen. So, first of all, I wanted to do the video on Rappi, but I'm going to talk about it now because I lost all the information that I had, and I can reproduce it, and I probably will to put it up as a standalone video so that I can edit it. But I want to give just a quick review of what it is. And let me see if I can get this to work. Okay. How about that? Hopefully everybody can see the book my flight for January. Yeah, hopefully. So this is the page of Rappi. Now, it's what you find on your laptop is not full featured. It's just kind of, it's got some of the things. You can order food, and there's a lot of things you can't do on it. But there's a download app, and I highly recommend that you if you're in Colombia, get that, use it, use this app. Now I'm going to go through a list of things that it can do. First of all, you can use it as a payment gateway. Now, some of you know that I've had issues paying Movistar, my internet. And I finally sorted it out, and I could walk down to the office. It's just a few blocks from me. I would go down there once a month anyway. I have to go past it to go to the bank to withdraw money. So I could go in there, and with my debit card, I could pay for it. They don't take cash there, but they would take my debit card. Work fine. But if I go on the internet on their payment gateway, would not accept my debit card. I've been trying for the last year and a half. Well, here I am with the office closed in Armenia since March something, 23rd, I think. The Movistar office has been closed, still closed, nobody there. Could not go in and pay. Tried the one downtown, the main office, closed. So, you know, what do I do? Well, you may recall a couple Sundays ago when the internet was botched up and it kept coming in and out, and you know, it was unwatchable. And then I had recorded it, so I was able to save it and then post it up later, missing 4 or 5 minutes of it. Well, that was when I had lost my internet, and I was trying to piggyback off of my neighbor downstairs. Did not work very well, and you certainly couldn't stream. To stream, it takes a certain amount of laptop power and a certain amount of internet power. It just wasn't cutting it. And, you know, so that was a fiasco that many of you went through with me. I see the views are way down for today, but I can understand when I haven't really been around for a month. So it's, you know, paying for internet was really an issue. They shut me off, and I went back online. I tried again, didn't work. And in searching for payment gateways, I ran into this Rappi. Now, I knew about Rappi, but it was never available in Armenia. It was, you could, in Medellin, everybody there that lives there knows all about it. If you were in Bogota, Cali, you knew all about it, but it had never been in Armenia. Well, because of this quarantine, they decided to roll it out in Armenia. It was coming, but they expedited it. So a few days after the quarantine, Rappi hit. And so I go on and I take a look, and it says you can pay bills. So I download the thing and I sign up for it. I put my debit card in as a payment method. And initially you might think, well, you're just ordering food from a restaurant. Well, they have that feature. But there's also, you can click and pay bills. And what it does is it takes your credit card through a payment gateway that accepts all, and then it pays. So, yeah, Oh, my hand, where did it go? So I was able to pay my internet, get it going, and find out that everything that I had trouble with in the past disappeared. They also send you a debit card of theirs. So if you're in a store that may or may not accept Capital One, all of a sudden, it's accepted. So that was, when I said it was a lifesaver, that got me back on the internet before everything crashed, but it got me back. Second thing is you can order groceries. And up on the screen here, if you look, second one over there, it says, no, the first one, supermarkets and then restaurants. But you can order Exito or Inter whatever. I don't normally shop there, and I'm Super Inter. Just drawing a blank. I'm not a fan of that store, but it's available. And if you use the Exito Express 24/7, you can order, which is kind of nice. And then restaurants, if you want to order up a vegetarian platter or a steak dinner or whatever, you can do it on there. Pharmacies, that's 24/7. You can just click on the pharmacy. You have 2 or 3 to choose from. You can price them. You can put your whatever your medication is. But whenever you enter, what you need to do is make sure that you're entering it in Spanish. So if you don't know what it is in Spanish, use your translator and then copy and paste it in. Some things I'm fine with, other things I'm not. And that gets a little confusing because some words in Colombia are actually different than they're more of a slang that has become the language, so you won't find it in a translator. So that takes a little figuring out. But you got pharmacies, you can get housewares, if you need a pot or a pan or sheets for your bed or whatever, you can order those kinds of things. You can get car insurance. If you need your basic car insurance, you can order it through this app. Florist, liquor store, donations, there's 10 or 12 legitimate places. You can buy babies too. Yeah. And then the last one I'll mention, and there's more, but the last one I'll mention is ATM. You can go in there and off your debit card, it'll go through that payment gateway, so it doesn't go through as a cash withdrawal like a credit card cash withdrawal. Where you get all kinds of crazy charges. It does it like a debit, and what they do is they send their driver to you with up to 400,000 pesos. Now that's not a ton of money, but if you need money for food for the week or something, you're not doing it through Rappi I had to get something mask online delivered here, but I needed some money. So that's, it's a very useful thing. And it's actually wherever you are. So if you're stranded on the other side of town, maybe you lost your wallet, but you still got your phone, you can get in there and they'll come and meet you wherever and give you the money. So that's pretty cool. And the last thing I'll mention about this is the more you use it, the less you pay. And it doesn't take a whole lot. I mean, after I used it 4 or 5 times, my delivery fees went away. And other fees, like there's a 10% or a 5%, I think 5% fee on ATM. But after you use this card for a little bit, that goes away. And then you can actually buy into this Prime service. Oh, the cat came in. You can buy into this Prime service, and there's even advantages where you get kickbacks, which may or may not be worth it. I haven't decided yet. There's no hurry for that. I don't have the extra money to buy into it. I think it's like 14 or 15,000 pesos a month, which it's not a lot. Okay, let me go to the next thing. Let's go to Arrowpost. Now, first I'm going to take you to Amazon. And I was looking at this, this is just like a oh, I wish I had a good video card for this other computer, because this desktop that I have, which was basically considered to be junk, I was able to repair it. But it's got an antiquated monitor, it's got no decent video card, it's only got 4 megabytes of RAM, so most of my stuff won't run on it. But it is an i5. So if I were able to put RAM in it and a video card and a different monitor, I know I'm dreaming, but someday, I mean, it's possible. Then I could use that as a true backup. I could actually do work on it. So, just looking for an example, and I said, well, let me look up a video card. So I looked this up on Amazon. Now, this so happens they'll send it to Colombia. The fees, there's no import fee deposit, although at some point you get charged for whatever it amounts to, plus we'll say $18 shipping to Colombia. Okay, well that's not bad, but I have found out that shipping to Colombia through the Amazon service can be problematic. So let me go to the Arrowpost, because this is actually what we're talking about here. As you can see, it's associated with PriceSmart. So here you see, here's the Arrowpost site, and you can see buy just about everything and paste your link. So let me paste that link of that product. And now I'm going to hit this search. Hopefully. See if it comes up. All right. There's a little delay because I'm doing program through a program through a program. And so let me get back to this screen here. So, all right. So what that did was it pulled it into Arrowpost, and it took all fees, all shipping, and shipping to my door, and came up with a price of $300,000. Now, would somebody post on the chat, divide that by, we'll say 3,900, and see what it is in dollars. The Amazon price was, I think it was almost $90 by the time all fees. Initially it said 75 something, but then there was a tax that they didn't charge. It worked out to almost $90. So I don't know what this is. I actually hadn't done it. So if somebody can just divide that 300,000 by the value of 3,900 pesos to the dollar, and then put up in chat how much that is in dollars, it will be pretty close. But one thing I can tell you, a real advantage, is the Amazon is sent typically overnight to their office in Miami. And then in Miami, they take a couple days, box it up with a bunch of other people, and then they ship it. It's a direct thing that goes daily, from what I understand, to Colombia. I wouldn't buy that video card. Well, I'm not. I'm not buying that video card. But understand, I'm not a gamer. So that video card actually would do fine for what I need. But I'm not. I just pulled up the first one that came up on the list, and for an example here. But now I can understand why you wouldn't buy it, because you are a gamer, and that can be important for you. For me, all I need to do is basically get HD, and so, and I also have to live on the cheap. I have to live on the cheap, and I can't afford the things that you typically, or I would have bought in the past. So I have to, if I do buy something, it's got to be kind of a make do. And that card would make do. But on the other hand, like I said, I hadn't considered to buy it because I was only looking for an example. And I called that up, and if you call it up, whatever I searched it for on Amazon, that's the very first one that comes up, and so that's how I got that. So calm down, relax. Relax. So you can do that with just about anything, including things that say they don't ship to Colombia, because they're only actually shipping it to Miami. And yeah, I understand the RAM would come first. I get it, but all three of those things have to be in place before I could actually use it as a backup. So it has to be an HD monitor, has to have a video card that will run HD, and it has to be the RAM. Okay, thank you. $77. So the CPU is fine. It's got an i5. That's plenty. Calm down, relax, guys. This was an example. This is simply an example. Well, I don't mind advice. It doesn't really apply here because this was not a card I was planning to buy. As I said, it was the first one that came up on the list as an example. We're talking about Arrowpost. You guys crack me up. And I know you're trying to be helpful. I'm not trying to take away from it. So this is $77. Let's keep telling what to do. Yeah, this is $77, and it was $76 through Amazon. But then when I searched for the fee, it came up to 80 something, almost $90. So it's actually a few dollars cheaper through Arrowpost. But again, the biggest thing is that it comes much quicker, because they're a regular service that comes into Colombia, from what I understand, daily. They've got the customs things down, and the stuff just comes right through. I ordered 2 things through there to try it out. Both were quite inexpensive. And one was my cheap throwaway microphone that I know a lot of you will say, what'd you buy that junk for? Well, it functions better than anything I had, and it was dirt cheap. So I got that to try the service out, and then I needed the network adapter. So I got the little tiny plug-in USB one for this desktop, trying to make it work. And it turns, I got one locally for 20,000 pesos, and that's about what it was worth. It turned out it kept glitching out. But in the meantime, prior to that, I had ordered one. They're very cheap, and I ordered one through Arrowpost, and it arrived last night. So I ordered it around the time I became delirious. So it's probably about 5 days ago, and then it showed up here. Now, if I'd ordered that through Amazon, I probably wouldn't see it for another week or so. So that's the real, one of the real advantages of Arrowpost. So, and it doesn't have to be off of Amazon. You can go to, what is it, Neewer or PH Photo or you can go to any site and open up the product page and then put that link for the product page into it. And in almost all cases, you're going to find it's acceptable. Now, I played with it. I didn't find any case where it wasn't acceptable, but they say, just hedging their bets, that it may not be able to be, they may not be able to handle the transaction. I don't know what that would be, but it's a pretty awesome service. So that's about all I got today. So it's time for questions and answers. It's been a long time. And last week when I tried to have a coffee time, right after I began, somebody put in some kind of donation. I don't recall what it was, and I don't recall who it was. I think it was Freebird, but I'm not positive. And it all happened so fast, and everything went to trash and stopped functioning. And so I didn't really have a chance to acknowledge it, but whoever you were and whatever that was, I thank you very much. Those things are very useful. I told you 2 years ago that I had to stop using my personal money. Yes, and I'll get right to that. I had to stop using my personal money for the channel. I just couldn't afford to do it anymore. And that's when I really started pushing for contributions and things. Because it takes equipment and it eats up equipment, and you travel, and there's expenses. So yes, I did get the stimulus check, and and also what I was able to put aside because of the bonus from the exchange, I wasn't spending that. I put that aside. Oh, we're done with this. Let me, hold on. Oh. I was able to buy that car. So I used the stimulus check and money I'd saved. Plus, I had to put some money into it for about $2,400 in total. And you say, well, you bought that car, it's for yourself. Actually, it's not. I don't need a car. That car is really for this channel. If my viewers come here and we want to go around, I've got something to take them around in. But it's so I can travel from place to place, places that I could not go by bus and taxi. Well, for an example, there's this coffee farm. They want to do a video for some particular reason. It's not just a normal coffee farm. It's something exceptional. And I want to show you guys. But I could take a bus to the area and I could take a taxi to the farm, but then I had no way to get a taxi back out of there. I checked with the farm. You have to, it's complicated for them also because there's no taxis that run out there on a regular basis. So you can get out there and then you can't get back. So you got to have a car, go with somebody with a car. It's too expensive for me to go to places like that, you know, with a car to hire somebody. But if I buy a car, then not only I can take people around and I can collect that money for, you know, daily driving, but I can take that money to places that normally would not really be very accessible for me. But those are the things that are interesting. Those are the things that you often don't get. You don't see them on YouTube. Proof the cars for the channel. Explain the upholstery design. Yeah, well, on the upholstery, I put the Grand Columbia logo on the seat back. The upholstery was trashed. It was filthy. The car itself is okay. I mean, you know, it's old with a lot of miles on it. Well, it's not that old. It's 2004, but mechanically it was kept up. But the body, the paint's not great, and the interior was just garbage. And one of the seats was broken. So I had the upholstery fixed up, dirt cheap. Came, took it out, took it to their shop, did the work, brought it back. It was just a few days, and he threw in. I asked him if he could put a logo on there, and he says, well, I can check on the price. I said, well, never mind, I just can't afford it. He goes, well, let me do it for you. And on top of that, he put in some red stitching. So, you know, his price, his service was pretty awesome. The seats came out really nice. He put in all new foam padding. So, you know, they're like new seats. So anyway, you know, I've got a total of $2,400 in that car, and that mostly came out of pocket, although some contributions went to that. One was a pretty good contribution, went to that. So there's that. And the hard drive that I had to get, you know, it's like if I wait for contributions to pay for that, I'll never get up and running, you know. So it's important that when people do contribute, although most people want it anonymous, it's important to me that I acknowledge that you're the reason this channel is gone for the last couple years. I was the reason prior to that. But since these contributions, you're the reason it keeps going, because I could not have afforded out of pocket all of the things that I've had to do. And I'll thank Trump for the stimulus check. That was very useful. Couldn't have got the car without it. So stimulus of this economy anyway. So any questions? We haven't had that in quite a while. So here's a chance. All right, here's a question. Have you looked into any driving courses that are required to get a license? I don't know if the schools have reopened yet. Yeah, there's one here in well, there's probably more than one. There's one that I know of. It's $900,000 for the entire program. Stupid cat. banging on my door. I don't know if you guys can hear it. $900,000 for the entire program. It takes 2 weeks. They guarantee that you're going to pass the test, even though it's in Spanish, because they walk you through all that. And they act like DMV. They're tied to, I don't know how this works. It's a public-private cooperation, and so they don't have to have DMVs in the expense. They use these driving schools as a way to do that. Out. Oh, sorry guys. So they are not open yet, which is fine because I don't have the money right now to do that. So, but okay, are you able to walk in parks or just around the neighborhood? Well, I was worried about getting sick, so I locked myself in long before the quarantines, at least a week, maybe 2 weeks before this quarantine began here. I don't remember exactly the time period now, because of my lung issue. And I have to be very careful about that because it is a serious thing. And if you've got something floating around out there that supposedly goes directly to the lungs, then I have to do everything I can to stay away from it. If I didn't have the lung issue, I would not have worried that much about it, because other than that, I'm a pretty healthy guy. But there were a couple times I was able to get out and around. And the Park of Life is shut down because they're a gated park, so that's shut down. But you can go to like Fundadores, and I think 2 times, maybe 3 times in the entire quarantine, I was out and around. But I was very careful. When I came back, I took a shower. I washed threw my clothes right into the washing machine. So I was as careful as I could be. It didn't keep me from getting sick. I have no idea. I don't think I got sick from going out and around. So how did I get sick? I have no idea. But that's how viruses are. I mean, you just don't know. You don't know when, where, and how. And I was asked if this was the CV, and I have no idea. Like I said, I didn't get tested or anything. I will tell you that the flu symptoms that I had were worse than any flu that I can remember. It kicked my butt. When I get the flu, I don't generally go delirious for a few days. And I generally don't have a relapse. But that's the only feature that seemed to be in line. But it doesn't seem like people can actually figure out what the symptoms are supposed to be. But what I do know is that whatever I had did not go into my lungs. So that was great. Now, maybe delivery, we wiped down everything, and so do they. The places where you get it, they spray with alcohol, all the packaging. And then they put you into a sterilized plastic bag and they seal that bag. And then when it comes to my building, the guard goes over. The deliveries actually have it, but the guard in my building has it too. And they go over and they take an alcohol spray and they spray it down because the alcohol kills it like in no time. So they spray that down. And they don't let them into the building. They have to stay outside the glass barrier. And I go down and receive it. Or I can have the guard do it, but I have to go down anyway. So I go down and I receive it. I can't go down unless I'm wearing a mask. For a while, you had to wear long sleeve shirts, but that kind of went out the window because everybody ignored it. So their deliveries they're very conscientious here about things. And so I'm not surprised at the amount of care. Anywhere you go, when I went to the bank, for example, they have hand cleaner all over the place. The alcohol kind. They've got it all over the place. At the guard station, they've got the alcohol spray, but they've also got the alcohol gel hand cleaner. And you see that everywhere. Everybody is very conscientious about taking as much care as possible. So I could have got it from there. I mean, I have no idea. I got it from somewhere. I got something from somewhere, but to me, you know, I hate to poo-poo anything, but you know, I've been consistent on this. I think all the overkill in the world won't stop you from getting sick. I mean, maybe it puts the odds in your corner, but it's you're gonna get it. You're gonna get it, I guess. I mean, these things. I guess what I'm saying is these things don't seem to be all that effective. I know the mask. I know the mask is kind of a farce. You know, it's more of a placebo than anything else. But that's neither here or there. You don't have to, you know, take my word for it. But pretty much any doctor will tell you that. So am I okay now? I feel great. I feel really good. I feel normal as far as the flu goes, but this quarantine is taking a toll. Not being able to go out and walk around. I'm not really eating very well. I'm not eating right because in my situation, the way I've locked myself down, fruits and vegetables are a little harder to come by, and I'm just constantly running out of them. So, yeah, I'm sitting here in the coffee shop of my green screen. You can see it moving there and catching the light. Oop, I think I messed it up now. Oop, yep. Oh well. So yeah, it's just a picture put up on the green screen that I messed up. So I'm not in a coffee shop. Where most people, actually right now you can't go into a coffee shop, but a lot of places are open. Yeah, I wanted to mention this because I've been asked this a few times in messages. Are things opening up? Are they open? They've actually been open for at least a couple weeks. Now that French bakery, half a block from me, that I talked about in 2 videos, that's amazing. He's in there baking, but what they do is they take the entrance, the doorway, and they'll take a counter and they'll put it up against that so you cannot come in. And then they serve you over that counter. So you don't go into their store, but they're baking and doing all the things that they need to do. Uh-oh, I just lost my chat. Hold on. Well, I still have it on this screen. Is everything still functioning okay? On the second screen, it just went crazy. But as far as the flights go, have you heard of any flights resume? No, I haven't. I really don't know. What is the attitude there towards mandatory vaccination? You know, the quarantine law here, the federal law, but it's the way it's done is determined by the departments or the states. So you'll see variation from one place to the other. What they're doing in Medellin is not what they're doing in Armenia. But there was a federal law. And I just find it kind of ironic that the law docket number is 666. I'm not kidding you. I'm absolutely serious about it. And there was something in the United States that was 6666. It's kind of creepy, but mandatory vaccinations. I'm not able to really interact with many people here now because of what's going on. Everybody's kind of focused on, you know, their urgent needs. But I don't think people will tolerate that. In the US, there's not going to be mandatory. As a matter of fact, I just saw something yesterday where they said absolutely would not be mandatory, but they're going to roll it out using every federal asset, be it military or National Guard or whatever. They're going to roll it out, and if you want it, it'll be there for you. So from the time it hits, within a day or two, if you want to have the vaccination, you can get it. But they cannot make it mandatory, and I heard, who the heck was it? Somebody actually in the administration came right out and said it will not be mandatory. So here, I imagine it's going to be the same. People here would be more likely to get the vaccination, probably, particularly what they've just gone through. And I know that there's theories about, well, that's the whole purpose. I don't know about that stuff, but I think they'd be more apt to do it. But if it was mandatory, people are very independent here, and I don't know how that would fly. It would actually be, it would probably make more people apt not to do it. So if they want to have more people vaccinated, making it voluntary is probably a much better way to go than to make it mandatory. And I think in the US that might be a similar thing. I think if they tried to make it mandatory, there'd probably be a lot less people. Okay, struggling with the chat now, sorry, but do you feel isolated, or are you still keeping close with your friends? I've been isolated for the last few weeks because of what I've been going through. I mean, I'm not kidding when I said I was sick. Not to be graphic, but I was telling Rob yesterday on the test run that after the couple days where I was kind of delirious and I was in bed, as much as I remember the whole time, I don't know. I got up and I looked down at the bed, and all I had were sheets on there because it was just burning up. And there was this big sweat stain from the couple days. So I took the sheets and threw them in the washer and, put some new ones on. But I was really out of it. So I can't say that I've really been much in contact. And then the computer went crazy, and I've been so focused on that. I get messages once in a while, hey, are you okay? And some I haven't even responded to because I haven't even had a good way to respond. So the isolation went a little bit far, and I've been so busy occupied by the things that I've been trying to deal with that I can't say that I feel isolated. I haven't had a chance to breathe to have those kind of feelings. I don't know if any of that makes any sense to you. But if I didn't have all the things that I've had to do, then, and as isolated as I had become, it would have gotten to me. What is getting to me is I really need to get out, walk around, get into some sun, because that's part of how you stay healthy. That's how I stay healthy. And not able to do that, it kind of concerns me because, I said that the flu stuff is pretty much gone. But I have a kind of a general weakness having gone through that and not able to really get out and do anything. Even here, the exercise room has been locked up. So, I'm kind of stuck in this small apartment without any way to, get my blood flowing. So that part's bothering me, but I'm past that. Tomorrow's Monday. It's not my day, but I'm going to go out and go for a walk tomorrow. I kind of need to, but I can't find my mask. So I might have to try to get one delivered. Any update on the status of your merchandise supplier? Any idea their access to resources, when they might be able to begin shipping items? They're shipping now. It depends on what it is. Most t-shirts and coffee mugs, things like that, are available. They are doing them. They are shipping them. Some of the things like the backpacks, the caps, the ball caps, like I ordered one for the channel, that's still in limbo. But everything else is back and functioning. And actually, those other things have been going for quite a while. They only shut down for a short period of time. The government kind of shut everything down for a day or two as they determined who was going to make the things that they needed, the masks, the swabs, the hospital gowns, all of that. And then once they determined that and assigned that, and apparently they had a ton of companies volunteer, then they were able to open everything back up. So if you were considered an essential business, you got to open. And they got to open. I'm not sure why my Grand Columbia t-shirts are essential, but they're open and available, and they have been, except for a few days. But it'll tell you right on the website. If you go to the website and look at the merchandise, it'll tell you if it's in stock or out of stock. What else we got? Did you see a doctor? No. I'm not much for doctors, and the only time I might have considered it was about the time I got delirious, and then I was just too out of it to even think about it. And they have doctors that make house calls, and I have a number for one, and I thought about that. I thought about doing it, but as long as the symptoms felt like flu symptoms, I just wasn't going to do it. And so, I'm an idiot that way. I grew up without doctors, and I got the cancer and stuff. I had to, and I'm very grateful and glad that they took care of me. But, if I'd known that I was going to go delirious, then I would have called a doctor prior to that happening. But then again, if I had known I would go delirious for a couple days and then come out of it okay, then I wouldn't have called the doctor. Everything worked out fine. It always seems to for me. No matter what gets thrown at me in life, I always manage to come out of it. I have, to me, a pretty amazing constitution. I've been able to be immune from most things. So, t-shirts are essential to prevent nakedness. Well, we could debate that in some cases. It's cute. So no, I didn't see a doctor, and yeah, you can tell me I was an idiot for not seeing a doctor, and I won't even argue with you about that, because I probably was an idiot. But everything worked out. I think one of the things in my life where like if I catch the flu, it's usually for a day or two, and I never get full symptoms, and it goes away, and other things in my life where for some reason I either don't get things or I recover at lightning speed to things. And so my life has been like that. The cancer was an exception, so I go through 3 years of hell, but I also know that was an exception. And even then I was supposed to die, and I recovered, and I'm fine, and so I guess all it did was probably reinforce that, unless I get some unusual sign, I'm going to be okay. And like I said, you can argue that that's stupid, and I won't disagree with you. Probably is pretty stupid, but it's the truth. So, any other questions? What do we have for time? How are we doing? Oh, got a little bit of time if you have any more questions. Anything else? Hopefully you're getting good quality video. It should be showing in HD 1020p. Hopefully the sound is better than ever. I would love your input of what your experience of today was, whether you email me or post a comment down below, not in this live chat, but post a comment down below once this is published again. I would really appreciate some feedback on it. And this is your chance, talking to you, Sugar, this is your chance to send me some advice on what you saw, the format, what you think of it, anything that you would like to see. Looks great, impressed, love the stream quality. Yeah, it's what's coming out to me, what I can see. I can't hear it. I'd have to have the headphones in. I get disoriented easily. I'm a little concerned about background noise. I forgot to adjust the mic a little more, so I don't know how much you got. But what the feed that I'm getting for the video looks really good. I would say it looks better than normal, and you would think, well, it's the same computer, how could that be? Well, when my hard drive isn't running at 100%, that means, because when you're processing something, you're going back and forth, hard drive to the RAM. And if it's not at 100%, things are going to go a heck of a lot faster. And I think that's what I'm experiencing today. And I think the quality is better than ever. even though it's all the same hardware. Don't need to get more fancier than this. Don't intend to. Not everything sounds real good. Awesome. Well, that's good to know. Yeah, I don't plan on putting anything more into what I have for this, but if the last few months have shown me that I need to have a backup. If something goes wrong, I got to have something. I mean, I can't even Facebook half the time recently, so I couldn't get messages out. It was problematic. So I've got this desktop that I was able to resurrect, and I've got it so it's functioning except for those 3 things that I told you about. So my plan is at some point, God knows when that'll happen, but at some point I'll gather enough money where I can put in the RAM that it requires. I can put in a video card so it'll do 1020. And used monitors around here are not horribly expensive. So I'll get a used 1020, plug it in. Actually, there was a new one I saw. It's a 27-inch curved, who's the maker? Asus monitor, which is a regular brand, curved 27-inch 4K, and that monitor was $1,200,000. That's pretty cheap for that monitor here in Colombia, and that was brand new. It was discounted like 50%. Right now, a lot of these big stores have amazing discounts on things sitting in their shelf and in the warehouse that'll be outdated by the time things are up and running. So I'm seeing price cuts on things that I'd never seen before, to the extent. And that monitor, it's like 50% off. Now, 50% off how was the price before? But for that quality monitor, being the curved type, which you always have a premium to pay, for that price here in Colombia is pretty amazing. All of that stuff's out of my reach right now, but those are my thoughts. So those 3 things, if I get them, then I've got a good backup. And as a matter of fact, what I would do is I would just use my laptop for streaming, and I'd do everything, all the wear and tear and the editing I would do on this desktop. Because if it craps out, the only thing I really have in it will be the memory and the monitor, which I could still use that, and the card. And the card and the memory aren't going to be that expensive. Maybe $100 for both. So that's just my wishful thinking. It's me stuck in Pereira. There you are. All is good except getting international health certificate. Being 74 years old, it's expensive. My visa application has until May. Well, all the visa deals, they're all extended, I think, for 3 months after the quarantine ends. So that part you're not going to have to worry about. Look it up. I mean, don't quote me on that, but I know that there's some extension after the quarantine, and it's a pretty good period of time to get insurance or start all over again. Well, you will have not to. You don't have to worry about the visa deadline. Now, international health certificate. I never had anything like that. Being 74, but I don't know what's the difference between being 65 and being 74? I mean, I never heard of that, and I'm not saying it's not true because I have no idea. So that's information that maybe you can send me an email and give me some details on that, because I'll check with the immigration people that I've dealt with, and maybe I can do a video on that. Because if you're having to do it, that means some other people. I just never heard of it, and I don't know. Maybe it's something new. So let me know. What is expensive? I think he's saying that international health certificate is expensive. I don't know. Okay, we have anything else? did I beat everything to death enough? Well, I'll send my apologies to you for just talking about, the boring stuff that's gone on with me over the last few weeks. It hasn't been very exciting. And it's, am I still going to Bucaramanga? Yes, it's one of the motivating factors of getting that car. Things like that. It's half of the reason of getting that car, not just there, but places like that. Because the thing is, well, you can take a bus. Another thing that I didn't mention on the bus, I have video equipment, and it's not the safest to go on a bus with a bunch of video equipment. And you say, well, you don't need a bunch. Well, you kind of do. You have to take your laptop. And you say, well, you don't have to do it, but you do. I've run into this. You go somewhere, you do some video with just a pocket camera or something. You get back, and then you find out there were issues with it. You need to go with enough equipment to make sure that you didn't waste the trip if something goes wrong. And things go wrong all the time. So I have made trips, particularly when I was in Ecuador. I went to places, came back, had a couple videos, would have been amazing experiences, came back, and there were issues and I couldn't use it. So I learned from those to take enough to do some processing where you are. Make sure it's all good. Send it up to the cloud, save it, so that everything will be okay. And so to bring that stuff, it's like you don't want to fall asleep on a bus on an 8-hour ride and have somebody, steal your laptop or something. So having a car is pretty important. It's driving me crazy. Oh, okay. Is there a difference in climate between Armenia and Bucaramanga? Since I haven't been there, I can only tell you what I've been told. It's warmer there, but they do have some higher elevations surrounding it. As a matter of fact, here in Colombia, they call it something like Little Hollywood. And I can't get a clear answer on why. I think part of it is because of some of the rich people that live on houses that look down on the rest of the city, like Hollywood. A lot of a lot of wealthy people live there. So I'm told it's a money city. But I believe that it's warmer there than here, but I don't really know. So I hate to give out bogus information. That's the impression I've gotten based on some things that I've read. But, I've learned you can't believe that stuff because, I tell you guys all the time that Pereira is warmer than Armenia. And I have people constantly argue with me, and it's simply not true. I would know. I live there. I've lived here for the last year and a half. I go into Pereira. I'm telling you, I don't care what you read, I am telling you that on the whole, Armenia is a couple degrees cooler than it is in Pereira. So it's kind of a sore subject because I have people all the time arguing with me. Nobody that goes back and forth between Pereira outside of maybe like I was on vacation and I did it once, but on a regular basis, it's absolutely warm, and there's reasons for it. They actually have a different weather pattern. The altitude is similar, but they have a different weather pattern than what we have in Armenia. And there's a reason Armenia is cooler, and that's that constant breeze that I'm always talking about. In Pereira, they don't have that because it is, even though we're 15 miles apart, there is a different weather pattern that they have. And that's how it is in the Andes. You can be in Cuenca, you could be across town and in the middle of this black cloud thunderstorm that goes on all day, and then you can be 10 blocks in the other direction and it's bright sunshine. You call them microclimates, and here for Armenia it's a very constant, steady pattern that's always there. In Pereira, it's the same thing. The overall climate is the same there, and it's a couple degrees cooler here. So But if I look it up on the internet, if I look in the historical records and all of that stuff, it'll tell me that that's not true. Except it is true. Pareda is a lot warmer than Armenia. Yeah, I mean, how did I get to Armenia the first time? When I was living in Pareda, how did I end up coming to Armenia of all the places I could have gone? Because I had a friend there that said he had some relatives in Armenia and he likes to go out on the weekends because it's so much cooler. You know, the heat in Pareda can just be oppressive. It reminds me of like New York City in the dead of summer where it's like 95 and muggy, which is another thing. It's not so humid here as it is there. And so he told me that. So I come to Armenia the very first time based on that. And I got here and it's amazing. You could feel how cool it got. And we got out, he had a car, we got out to this little sidewalk thing for chorizo and they had ice cold beer. So we're sitting there eating a chorizo and having an ice cold beer. And that was the moment that I thought, you know, I'm really starting to like this place, Colombia, which up until that point, living in Pareda, I did not like it at all. I did not like it. So, you know, I'm thinking, this is pretty cool. And then I go back to Pareda. It was late afternoon, and it was right back to the hot and muggy and the dirty and it was just not good. Of course, those times it was tough here. You know, it's like half of the people had no job. It was very different. True, no wind, lots of rain. Yeah, the rain comes seasonally, and it's the same in Pareda. We have had some rain a day or two ago. We had just as I was coming out of the delivery, we had one heck of a thunder boomer. It was pretty fantastic. I love thunderstorms. Aren't there hilly areas in Pareda with a little higher elevation? Well, there's hilly areas, but you're talking elevation of a few hundred feet. It's not the elevation. It's the weather pattern that they have there, and it's just a warmer, more humid pattern that arrives in Pareda as compared to what comes here. What comes here for Pareda, it's funneled up this valley from a warmer area. What comes here to Armenia, and I know that for some people this doesn't make sense, but it's coming up over these mountains on the one side, which cools the air, and that's what creates this breeze. And then it hits Armenia, and then it's going up another mountain that's behind Armenia. And so you have this wind force because of these mountains that just keeps a breeze and keeps it cool. In Pareda, you don't have that same layout, even though it's very close to here. I've looked at this in a lot of detail, trying to understand it myself, because when you look and you see the elevation, well, everything is an elevation, and that's why that's the pattern that I'm referring to. Will you ever interview a real estate agent? Probably not, because I'm constantly advising people against using one. I think it's a bad idea. To each their own. I go direct to people. First of all, you're cutting out the middleman. It's easier to negotiate if you're dealing with an owner versus a real estate person. The real estate person, of course, they want to make the sale, but the owner is much more interested in it. It's personal for him, and so he's more willing to wheel and deal where agents aren't. Also, there are certain rules here that if you buy direct, they will ignore. It's not like you're doing anything illegal, but you don't have to jump through so many hoops. For example, if I went through an agent for my apartment, I would have had to put 6 months deposit down. I don't have 6 months deposit, and I wouldn't do it anyway because, it's tough getting those things back. So dealing directly with the owner, I didn't have to do that. If I were dealing with an agent, I would have had to have a cosigner, a local a naturalized citizen cosigner. Well, dealing directly with with the owner, he didn't care as long as I got the money. So it's problematic dealing with agents, in my opinion. Quick question: do the doctors there speak English? Well, some do, some don't. Most don't. I don't find those things to be problematic. In the video, in the live that nobody ever got to see because I didn't know it wasn't broadcasting, I actually talked about this for a bit, about the language. I traveled to almost 18 countries, I think, of different languages without knowing any of those languages long before I moved to Ecuador and Colombia. And I always managed to get along okay. And a lot of those were before phone translators. Well, now you have a phone translator, and it's gotten so good. Plus, if you know how to use it, if you know how to phrase what you're doing, it works fine. If you don't, if you put things in the way you normally would talk and put it in, you'll come up with all kinds of weird things that don't make sense. But if you learn how to phrase things, if you learn how to use it, it's actually very effective. So you have that, but I don't know. I never had real issues of getting myself to be understood. And so, if I'm seeing a doctor and if I had these symptoms, how do you deal with it? So the doctor asks me in Spanish. Actually, I would understand him now, but say I didn't. I'm there, I'm sick. I would say, what's that mean? It means I got a fever. If I go, means I got a sore throat. You may feel silly doing that, but I've gone through my life in different countries for various things, and that's how I communicated. And it's always worked. I mean, I'm still here. I'm still alive. I'm not missing any limbs. So I managed to get through it. So, dealing directly to use translator for apartment negotiations. Well, one of the nice things here, my owner, he doesn't own me, the owner of my apartment, he speaks a little English, but we did everything in Spanish. And he's in Bogota. And most people, pretty much everybody here communicates with the app called WhatsApp. What's app. If you don't have it and you're coming here, get it, because that's how you're going to need to communicate. So we communicated with WhatsApp. His local guy, who only spoke Spanish, put me in touch with him because I wanted to negotiate the terms. I wasn't willing to accept it the way it was. And so I sent WhatsApp, and he said he could speak English, but I felt better actually using the translator and putting it in Spanish. And at this point, I know enough Spanish that I know what I'm putting in there. It's just more structuring it and putting in the connecting words that, I might not do. So it basically gramifies it for me. So I would send that to him, and we went back and forth on that. We negotiated that way, and he told me he wanted 6 months deposit, and and I've talked about this before. There were 3 times that I said, okay, well, I really appreciate your time, but that's not going to work for me. And I go away, and within 15 minutes, he's messaging me back. So 3 times I walked away from the negotiating table, and wait. But I also knew there's some things you go into it. I knew that it had been open for at least 3 months. And I know the situation around here. So he had it as a retirement investment, and he's working in Bogota. He can't afford, he's paying a mortgage on it. He can't afford to have the thing sit. And it's already gone 3 months. He's got somebody on the hook. He's not going to let me go. And I knew that was the case. So I took it to the point where, I thought maybe it's going to break, but it put it in a position where it became affordable for me. So I negotiated down the price. I negotiated what we had for deposit, a few other things to, make it ready for me. And, I was good with that. I was happy with that. I could have probably gone farther, But you know, in any negotiation, you don't go to the point where people start resenting you. Because what if something happens? You want to have a landlord on your side. And I'll quickly mention, because this has paid off several times for me now, always pay your rent well ahead of time. I pay my rent 3 weeks ahead of when it's due. Sometimes 4. You got to pay it anyway. So what's the difference? But it gives the impression that you're such a good bet. Nobody else does that. That he's experiencing. He doesn't do that. He doesn't go pay his mortgage 3 weeks ahead. So I've always made a point to do that down here in South America. It buys so much goodwill. In the last house I had in Ecuador, something happened that would have been my responsibility, and I talked to him about it, and he took care of it. It saved me a couple $100, and it was because of that. All right, so what do you mean how to phrase things? Where can you learn how to phrase things correctly? It's more experience using the translator. I don't want to do this now, and it might make for a pretty boring video, but I can tell you a couple things. First of all, keep your sentences as short and crisp as possible. Try not to write a book, because in the Google Translator, it all interacts with each other. And so you can take a sentence here and put it in a paragraph, and it'll say one thing, but then you take that sentence and put it alone, and it can have a different meaning. So you can do 1 or 2 sentences if it's anything important. If it's not so important, if you're just talking to somebody, they can get by. But if you're trying to negotiate something like rent, just use 1 or 2 sentences, make them as brief as possible, and make sure you don't use any slang. There's a few other tricks to it, but that alone will take you a very long way in being understood. You also have the voice thing where if you're in person, you can click the voice. I don't like it, but it works. You can click the voice thing and you can say what you want to say. They hear it in Spanish. You hand it over to them, and it just automatically goes to they speak Spanish, and then I hear it in English. That feature is pretty good on Google. It works pretty well. I mean, when I first came to South America, it didn't work for crap, but it keeps improving, and it's working pretty good now. I still would rather type it than voice. I don't know why, but okay. Anything else? We had quite a day today. Everything seemed to go well. God, it's about time. And maybe we can keep it this way. And now that I've got some features here, maybe I can start expanding on it. When I start traveling again, I can actually show you things instead of just talking about it. And I can kind of shrink down into the corner and you can see what I'm talking about. I think it would be a lot more interesting that way. So, some good came out of this. Things are functioning so much better. I wish I'd just known, could have fixed that Windows problem, but here we are. All right, we're going to call this a day, and thank you very much for tuning in. Are you getting treated any different due to the virus being a gringo? I don't know. I'm not seeing anybody, but probably not. I wouldn't think so. Not here in Armenia. Then it's just not like that here. I don't get treated differently for anything, anywhere, anytime. This is not Medellin, and most of these stories are coming from people in Medellin where it is the case. You got gold digger chicks, you got people that are trying to take advantage of you. You got to watch your back all the time. And here in Armenia, you don't have that. I mean, it probably exists. There's probably a few people. If I'm in New York City versus Rochester, New York, I'm a lot more apt to run into people that want to take advantage of me in New York City than if I'm in Rochester, New York, where those things don't really happen. Well, that's what it's like here, Medellin versus Armenia. Armenia is just kind of cool, chill, very comfortable, mostly a rural type of people. I mean, we're in the middle of coffee farm country, and we don't have big city slickers here that know the ways of the world like that. Do you feel the car will make it to Bucharest? Yeah, mechanically, I'm very happy with it. New tires and brakes and all kinds of stuff. It was well maintained. When I looked at the car, I went into the glove compartment, and sure enough, it had this weird French long skinny binder, but stuffed in there with a ton of records of the timing belt getting done and all kinds of stuff that had been done to it. And it makes you feel good about it. And I looked at some of the things, and you could see, some of the things that I could see, yeah, that was done. I'd love to have 4 brand new tires on it. I mean, that's pretty cool, but that's not really mechanical. But that was like a nice bonus, because that I didn't even know when the guy brought the car over here for me to check it out. Nobody had ever mentioned it. But there are 4 brand new tires with the paint still on in between the grooves. So that was cool. So yeah, I think the car will make it. I was as careful as I could be in selecting a car within the price range. Now, granted, I'm at the bottom end of the price range, but what I was looking for was mechanical. And I did I saw the records to verify, but we'd actually talked about, okay, what's been done to the car. And he went down through a list of things. Well, could be true, not true. Most people that I run into here really remind me of Rochester, New York. People are basically honest here. It's not that people aren't going to lie, and there aren't some scammers, so you have to, but for the most part, you look for those signs, and the older you get, the more you know them, that somebody's lying to you. And I find that people are refreshingly honest here for the most part. These are some of the reasons I chose here and not a place like Medellin. That and the traffic and pollution, and the cost, and I look at Medellin as magnificent city as it is, and I've said this before. I mean, it's an amazing city, but I would never ever want to live there, and it's for all these things. It's a city can have all of these features. They're just amazing and desirable. But for me, it's all about livability. I don't want to. I mean, if I was a party hound, okay, Medellin's got some, but eventually that's going to wear down. And then what? It's like, well, you can party here too if you're that, but I'm not that. I mean, I'm so far past that. No more acid in my future. Those days are done and gone. I'm more concerned about what's life on a daily basis. What are the people like that I have to interact with? That it's like how is this? What's my comfort level? Do I have to constantly be stressed that somebody's out to get me? Do I have to worry about every transaction? And is it legitimate? And here it's like all those things really kind of drop down to a very livable comfort level, because people are far more apt to help you than to hurt you. I don't really run into people that are trying to take me. I run into people constantly that want to go out of their way to help me. And so I'll take this little town, city, 300,000 over. I wouldn't live anywhere else outside of maybe Manizales. There's some wonderful places in Colombia, but they're not wonderful for me. Armenia is wonderful for me. Sounds like you got a great deal for the money. Yeah, I think I did. And I think this situation helped me get that deal. And that was another one that I talked to him along with several other car owners for a couple weeks. And that price came down considerably. And when I looked at that car that year, similar mileage on it, in other areas where they were for sale, they were considerably more money. Now, they may not have had the interior as trash, but still, the interior was cheap. What was it? No. How much was it? God, 800,000, I think, to come here, remove the seats. It was under $200 in dollars. I think it was like $180 to come here, 2 people, remove the seats, transport. He had to stuff them in a taxi cab back to his shop. Worked on it for a couple days, like replacing the foam and the material and all that. Stitched the logo, the Grand Columbia logo, into the seat backs. Bring them back, reinstall it for under $200. I mean, come on. We love visiting Medellin and New York City, but wouldn't want to live there. Exactly. Medellin is a place to go, like for a weekend or something, for me. Yeah, and I know there's people there, and some even watching, that live there and they love it, and that's fine. We all have different tastes. We all have different goals. We all have different things that we want. There was a time when I was a man of the world, when I was living in Tokyo, or just outside of Tokyo. I was quite the swashbuckler. I mean, I had a lot of money. I was dining out in the best of restaurants. I was going out and getting drunk all the time. I had girls on each arm. There was a time when I was a handsome, dashing dude, And for 3 years, I was living the life, and I loved it. But if I were to move back to Japan, I probably would live in one of the smaller towns that even then, I traveled all over the country. Not so much north of Tokyo, although some, but from Tokyo south, including down through the islands, I went to a lot of places to visit, and there are some small towns there that I would prefer now over Tokyo. But back then, I mean, Tokyo is just the thing. There was a hotel that I would stay at for a week or two to just do nonstop partying, and then I'd leave and then come back, maybe next month for more of it. So, it all depends on what your cup of tea is, and that's the nice thing about the world is you can find the place that's comfortable for you. For me, it turned out it was Colombia, and in particular, it was Armenia. And what drew me here to begin with. There's a lot of places in Colombia that if I had to live in them, it's like shoot me now. I mean, every place, but there's places in the U.S. like that. So, and places change too. I mean, San Francisco is not what it once was. It can still be fantastic, but it's not the fantastic that it once was, and that's the nature of life. But for me, Armenia is perfect. And for you, it could be Medellin. For you, it could be Cuenca. God would know why, but oh, poor Ecuador. I beat up on Ecuador. Okay, no comments. I can't see because it went off, so I don't know who's online anymore. But back to wrapping things up. I want to thank you very much. I really appreciate you hanging in there with me. Whoever did that contribution last week, I haven't seen, I think it was Freebird, and I haven't seen him online. He probably just got tired of, having bad broadcasts. But thank you all so much, and I will see you next Sunday, barring some new disaster. Ciao.